Good morning, legends and super legends. Welcome to Veloharmony. It's about 6:37 Central Standard Time. The temperature outside is 19 C and the humidity is low, so it's a cool 19 C. So I'm wearing a base layer, nothing on my legs, and I decided to go silhouette today. I've already taken the bike I'm riding outside. I leave it outside so when Paul and them show up, they can see it. Christian might join us today. He texted me yesterday. I'm going silhouette today. Let me try to put this on without ripping it. Yeah, because the arms are very long. It's my rough protein arrow jersey. I'm going all in black with the little orange out of the shorts. That's the mic. Let me let that stay there. I hear a vehicle outside, so one of them have arrived. It's Paul. Paul usually parks in the backyard. Christian usually parks on the street. I'm going all black. It's going to be sunny today, and it's going to be between 20 and 23 C whole ride. I'm not wearing a hat because with my base layer, I'm gonna feel warm. So even though it's a little cool this morning, it should be fine, but cool is relative. I pay particular attention to the weather because it changes all the time. If I hadn't walked out there, I would have gone without a base layer and I would have been a little bit cold to start. I think too cold. So with this, if I get too warm, I can just zip it down. It's a sleeveless base layer, so it should be fine. I'm going all black. Black shoes, everything. It's sunny. The only color is that, so it works. Up until maybe 20 minutes ago, when I walked, my legs hurt. This muscle here, the big quadricep muscle here was hurting. This one was hurting. We rode almost 297 kilometers in 3 days. This week, so we increased the mileage. So my muscles were sore, and so I massaged them, and that's the key. Recovery, quick recovery allows you to go and do even more, and that's how you improve. So I hope you'll get a chance to get some K's in. I'm gonna be getting some good clips, and stay safe when you're out there. I'm gonna get ready. On this ride, Paul and I rolled from Northampton. Christian didn't make it. I found out later that he had overslept. He said he was tired. We got in to meet Team RR, picked up the boys there. That's Doug and his brother Greg. Went down Fish Creek, lots of action into the Honia area. As Phil Liggett says, the attacks were thick and fast. We got to the store in Montgomery, rolled up, further up. Some people came back, but we went to Bailey Grove Road, went into Bethel Road, took Johnson Road to Dacus, 1486 there, and we tried a new road there called Mount Moriah Road, who I really like, lots of hills. After that, we got on 1486 on Jackson Road. The attacks were thick and fast, as Phil Liggett says, into Magnolia. After the stop in Magnolia, Paul and I let the boys go a little bit. You can see we just stayed behind, spinning a little slower. We had a tailwind there. And on Jackson Road, unfortunately, there was a smudge on the lens that weren't to wear out. So it's a little more cloudy, but I think you'll be able to appreciate what happened there. Fair hard ride. Just a beautiful, glorious day for a bike ride.
1486, depending on how far people want to go. Eldred said that Jackson Road is now open and repaved. Oh, really? So we're going to end up going down Jackson to 1488 and then home.
Yes, confirmed. I got the suspicion from the fact that Mo and that maniac Rex Shop rode it on Saturday after they went to Anderson on some epic ride. I said, it's gotta be Grady. They came back on Jackson. Because I saw it on Strava and I increased, that's what gave me the clue. And sure enough, it's ready. You'll love it. It is sweet.
It was a bad shape.
No yellow line yet, but it's beautiful. Wide and nice. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Randy, you pulling. Get out there.
We're messing with Randy because Randy's been showing up a little late for the rides. Excuse me. So people have been teasing him. He's been coming in to where the group is leaving later and later instead of close to 7:30. They've been leaving around 7:45.
Let's all move at once.
So I made a comment. I said, "Let's go, Randy. You're pulling." Randy's our hero that dressed light on a cold ride. Our local hero. So he's up there in the blue.
Morning, man. This is like a spring morning.
Yeah, it's a beautiful morning.
Man, good to see
Even
you
though it's
guys.
19C, it's a cool 19C.
Randy, you say something?
Morning, Eldred.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Veloharmony.
Yeah, you're a star on the channel, man. They love you.
Morning,
I told them you're a hero. And then some girl in England said, no, he's not a hero, he's cold. She was chatting on, when I release the ride, we do a premiere, we watch it together. So I basically sit there, people can chat. So she said, he's not a hero, he's cold. It was cold. That's fine. They've all been there, done that.
Hey, morning. Beautiful day here in the Woodlands, Texas. Morning legends and super legends.
There you go. That's Randy. That's our hero there, guys. You got it. Legends and super legends. These are the Woodland legends heading out.
And then give it a dog bark.
Yeah. There you go. He's got it. Cool, man. He's a legend.
Randy.
Everybody who subscribes to the channel, I call them legends. Legends of cycling because they're seeking information. And then the people who actually support the channel, I call them super legends. So that's what they go to Patreon, they donate so I can get supplies and I mean, you know, but you see it popping up. It's on the channel page.
I take benefit of watching all the blog posts.
Well, it's an you can do Patreon any way you want to. It's there on the channel page. Not an obligation, but the cool thing is, as I've gotten more donations, I can divest my time and put it into the channel.
The advantage of actually being able to ride with you is when I watch some of the vlogs where you post, hey, there goes Randy wobbling again. Randy, keep your line.
Yes.
And I'm like,
And that wasn't for you so much as opposed to the rest of the guys who do the same thing. Because they comment and like that. And that's the key. Because I used to do the same thing. They used to call me a squirrel when I started cycling. So it helps everybody kind of learn. But yeah, you know.
well, there's going to be a
Look at that sun. That's beautiful.
It's a big
We're riding away from the sun.
Beautiful. Good turnout.
Randy's been watching the videos,
Where's my
obviously.
cinematographer?
The dog bark is our social media announcer, letting people know to follow us. Facebook, Instagram,
All right.
Strava. That's what the dog barks when that image pops up.
You guys go ahead. I'm waiting for Paul. Go by. Where are you, buddy? There you go. Keep going.
Look at Paul's jersey. That's the business. I told him I was
I wanna
jealous.
give you the camera.
I saw that jersey. I didn't get one. I'm kicking myself. It looks awesome. Purple and white. Yeah, my strap on the shoe the Velcro lifted up, and it's fine. Just tapped it down. That's one of my favorite pairs of shoes. It's the oldest one I have, and of course it has the most wear. So I've been patching it up on the inside. Some of the inside is tearing, and I get fabric and I fix it because I love the fit. And with black shoes, they look small and slim. So got my eye out for another black shoe, but Giro has not made a full solid black shoe in some time in that model line that I have, the Pro Light. So that's what I like. So I'm looking for that actual shoes. I've been looking on eBay, but it's hard to find the size 45, because it was made years ago. I really like it. I'm in stealth mode. I don't usually wear black, and I'm looking on the clips. It looks really good. I don't wear all black very often. Work today. That's Doug and Greg Schott I'm talking with right there on that line with me. That's Doug closer to me, and Greg is on the right. Greg is a big mileage rider. He rides with Mo a lot. He's done all kinds of epic rides in Colorado, just climbing mountains, thousands of feet. So. You can't just look at a rider and tell what level they are. You got to see them riding. So Greg's one of those that he's very unassuming, a very calm, quiet guy, very nice guy. But he doesn't do a lot of talking. He's not loquacious like I am. So if you don't go and talk to him and spend a little bit of time, you don't get to know him. He keeps a low profile. You only see him when things get really hard as he comes around you. The guy on the right. And you see Paul would put them on camera. So we're talking, but he was the one that gave me a wheel the day I was struggling when I was not well. And he stayed back with me, he and Mo. So it's just you get help from the people you least expect it from. I guess that's the way the planet works. That's Mary. I'm messing with her. I grabbed her phone and pushed it down. It was sticking up a little bit. It was good to see Mary out. Mary had an accident in Colorado. That's Doug, yeah, the brother, Greg and Doug. Doug is on the closer side of Paul, and Greg is out further to the right. That's Randy on the right here. You guys know Randy by now. You see how Randy is riding in a straight line, smooth. So Randy is learning from watching the videos. So he watched the video. He was telling me earlier, as you heard, my comments made him pay attention to that. So look at Randy holding a straight line. That's what it's about, guys. It's not about making anybody look bad or look great. It's about all of us learning. And Randy has been watching the video. I mean, he knows the byline, all the, everything about the channel, and the channel has helped him. Look at the line he's holding. Randy is riding straight. That's impressive to see. Good job, Randy. Whatever you've been working on, I see it on this video. Looking good. Because when I started, I didn't know. You get into cycling, you just don't know. And when you're close to people, you got to be smooth and predictable so they can relax around you.
Some serious money, my man.
The boys, we had a big turnout today. So what happens is if you don't ride when the weather is difficult or inclement, your fitness struggles. And so when it's beautiful like this, the people who have been riding either on the trainer or on the road or wearing the proper gear because it was cold, they're ahead of you. Even if everything genetically is the same, they're still going to be ahead of you. So when it's beautiful, then you're trying to get to their level or get fitter. So it's better to just, my motto is I eat every day. I need to do something every day. That's the way you have to look at it. There's no silver bullet. There's no shortcut. We are meant to use our bodies. The movie Office Space, I've mentioned it before. The character said human beings were not meant to sit in a cubicle for 8 hours a day. That's too many hours. You need to use your body. When we got there, they had already been discussing the route, and I've suggested Jackson Road because it's a good way to get out. It has a lot of hills, and as you heard in the beginning, is completed. It had been under construction. They were repaving, so there was dirt. We had been avoiding it the last few weeks. So they're done. We confirmed it. Paul and I went out earlier in the week and rode it. So I was telling Mark, but I didn't get the whole course. So in a little while, you'll see me ask them whether we're going straight up there. I think I already have. That's what Paul's talking about, 1488. So once I confirm that we're going straight, you know, because people ask, are we turning left or going straight? At this intersection, sometimes we'll go left, we'll go west. This time we're going straight north. I look back twice because there's a truck back there, and I let him know we're coming over. Because these two lanes go straight, and then one on the left goes left and straight, in addition to the left turn lane. So we take the right one because we're going straight. That's the proper way to do it. Don't stay in the right turn lane that's only turning right if you're going straight. Even if you solo, stay in this lane. And if you solo, you would stay where the guy in the yellow and the lime green are standing. That's where you'd be, where Randy is. If you solo, you stay there, even if you're the first vehicle, because you are a vehicle. Paul said, green up. We got that from Joe Nanga. It's his legacy here. Joe left a phrase that Paul used it at the Bike Barn group, and the Bike Barn leader said he liked it and he probably will be using it too. So thanks to Joe Nanga, we now say green up. Just like you said car up, we say green up when the green light changes, when the light changes to green. It just has a good sound to it, so it's stuck. So every time I say green up or Paul says green up, I think about Joe Nanga. That's just the way the world works. It's not about how much stuff you accumulate. It's about the relationships you forge while you're on this planet. That's what makes you immortal. You get to be remembered. I have met people for a few days, like at a driving school. I met an instructor. His name is Ben. Taught me how to drive my BMW like the people do at the track. And 3 days of knowing the guy, he's passed on. But every time I get in my car, I think of him. So teachers are really important. They leave an impression. Teachers, role models, whatever. Anyway, let's get back to cycling. That just came to mind. So it is important who you touch while you're on this planet, in any way possible. The interactions you forge are critical every day. So at this point, you see Michael's jersey is all flapping in the wind. All of that is drag. I think he would be better off to size his jersey down. They need to fit. You guys saw the preview, the prologue. I was putting the jersey on like you could peel it off of me. Everything that you see flapping is slowing him down. If you look at Rudy, there's nothing flapping. You look at me, there's nothing flapping. There's another rider that's going to come around. His name is Mike. You will see nothing flapping. I don't know if he already has. He probably has. But anything that flaps on you is slowing you down. That is drag. Period. When you buy your jackets, they need to fit you if you're going to be riding. So even though he's in the draft here, he's working a little harder because his kit is not tight on him. So he needs to size down. There's too much excess fabric. I like those socks he's wearing, very visible. Somebody asked at one of the live sessions what length of socks I like. And I said below the calf, and it was relative because you see Michael's is right below the calf. Mine is about 4 inches below my calf. Is where I buy the regular length. When I get Rafa socks, they call it regular length. I just had to try a lot of experimentation. I like that. That's what works for me. So my socks come up 4 inches below my calf. The speeds have picked up because Mike that I was talking about is already at the front. He's pulling, and I think Rick is behind him. I'm gonna highlight Rick because Rick is one of the guys. He's the guy this ride that told me that he almost threw up when we got to the store at the taco corner. And you will see the efforts that he put in that caused him to And his comment to me was, "But I've done it before." Well, you may have done it in the past, but it doesn't mean your current training is at the point where you can do it with this group, because we don't back off. You go hard, we go harder. So we passed this rider here. He was saying good morning, and then so I think Randy must have been the one that told him that you got about 20 people to say that to. Everybody was fast and he was saying good morning. In a little while, Doug has a flat. Right there, flat tire. So I call up the mic because he's ahead and tell him to turn in there. So we're gonna get off this highway and take this side street. It's very quiet. It's a neighborhood. That's what you want to do. If you're near one of these places or a driveway, get off the highway. You're not that visible when you're standing.
Turn it off. Right.
Let's before you turn it off. What's the guy that had the flat?
That's a dog check.
So the guy with his back to us with the green shirt right here on the left is he's getting his wheel off. This guy, Rick, is the one I'm talking about. I just want you to remember him because he was the one. We don't have him on film at the store, but he told me that he almost threw up, and because he ended up getting dropped, and he
Gentlemen,
just
keep your eye out for cars leaving the neighborhood.
he just looked really bad after he fell off the pace. He was pedaling squares and just could not even keep up with us as we came up to him, because Paul and I were doing our own thing after the major efforts. So he couldn't even get on to Group D.
Yeah, the rider will start beating you up.
And he was feeling really bad at the store. He just looked confused. So I just wanted to point that out. I would show you what he did that led to that. He just went too hard over his current fitness. You should not ride to where you feel like throwing up. That's just too hard. That's not fun. That doesn't make you want to ride. So, consistent with that, he ended up turning and coming back home. So, what I'm explaining here,
Yeah, because I would save you time. Because it's set up for your frame already. I pulled 34 hours. That's another group. Okay. I want to put it in a decent gear. Your chain's not on, my brother. Underneath. So spin it. Spin it one revolution. On the small chain is on.
yeah, see, his chain was not completely on the small chain ring in the front. Because when he changed the wheel, he lined it up in the back. But when you're doing that, it can come off your chain ring. So make sure you do at least one revolution of a spin, because you don't want to put load on that drivetrain if the chain is off. You don't want to do that. So I saw that and we caught it. The other thing I was explaining to him was when you flip your skewer, the wheel should come off. Even if you're riding a steel frame and it's stuck, just hit the tire, because you don't need to adjust the nut because it's set up for your frame. That saves you a lot of time on the road. You should only adjust the nut or twist the nut if you're putting it on a new frame or you've used that wheel on another frame that had different size dropouts. Once it's set up for your frame, you just flip the skewer handle and it should come off and just go right back. You don't need to make any adjustments. That's what he was doing. He was spinning it around. So we resume, and in a little while we'll put an arrow on Rick. Rick is up there. And this is just something to know that you must pace yourself and you must stay within your limits. Because this group had a lot of heavy hitters today. Rick was the guy who rode with us the last group ride. Those of you who've been following, that's Rick right there. He rode with us, and I told him when he said, we're going to go straight instead of right on one part of the ride. And he said, but there's more hills straight. And then I told him that's why you have to pace yourself. He wasn't happy about us taking a ride with more hills, and I just told him that's why you got to pace yourself. So unfortunately today he just pushed too much, and there's several events that you're going to see unfold that leads to that. That's a signal to Paul to let him know, tighten it up, because down this hill these boys, they go fast. There's some piece of wood. I hate those. I don't know where they come from. Just people drop stuff. There's another one that will come further down. or no 2x4. It's not good for your wheels. If I see those last minute, I jump. That's Rudy behind me there. Rudy is an ex-road racer, USCF racer. Rudy raced up to category 3. Rudy was the one talking about this good hurt and bad hurt. Made me laugh that day. I keep my cadence in the 80s here because the power's off. If you look at my heart rate, I'm in zone 1. We just went down that hill. But because of the kind of riding we're doing right now, my heart is not working as hard as it did in the past. So my zones, I'm generating more power in my zones. So my zone 1 is very high. So I check for cars. This road is going to open up into 2 lanes. The shoulder is going to end. And the 2 lanes begin here, so I move over. I want to be able to see around these guys to see what's coming. There is a light up there. It goes to yellow as we enter the intersection, but we are trained. We got a caboose. There's a long line of riders here. So what I do is I put my arm out one more time so that driver can see me. That's for the driver and the group. And so I look back to make sure everybody made it. But the other guys had already caught the red, but then that driver waved them through. So they were gapped. Now Rick is at the front. He's not even paying attention to that. And the reason I'm pointing that out, he's not doing anything wrong. I just want you guys to know when you're at the front with your mates, you've got to pay attention to the last person in the group, in your group. So I go ahead and ride up. It's not easy doing this. We're going up a hill. So I ride up there to Rick to let him know to slow down because we've got riders gapped. I mean, a bunch of riders are gapped. So I let him know, and then I roll back and I check. Just to let him know to just drop the pace. You can see it, we're doing 29. He was doing like 35 or something. I could tell by his motion he was ready to start riding hard again. So to his credit, he backed off the pace.
Okay, everybody's here.
So I let him know everybody's together, we can resume. This is Neville and Dan. Since they're chatting, I go ahead and a little bit I ride around them. I want to be riding behind the people that are not leaving gaps. You see the gap in front of them? I ride around. Don't follow people who are leaving gaps. Ride around them and get to the next rider who is staying close to the wheel, because you have to work hard. They will have to expend energy to close this gap at some point. I don't want to be a party to that. And you see Paul roll around them too. That's why you see the camera coming up to me. That's what you got to do. The same thing, whether you're racing, Grand Fondo, doesn't matter. That's riding. Don't follow riders that leave large gaps, because you will have to do the work. I mean, you can sit on their wheel when they decide to close, but they're going to be closing at a harder pace than the group would be doing. So you'll have to, unless you want to do that later, it's just better to go around and keep your energy output steady. So since I'm all in black, even though it's a sunny day, we start out with the lights on. I end up turning it off because in the group, this light is too bright. I just turn it off. I save it for when we're coming home and it's just the 2 of us. I always do that. Because in the group, on a sunny day, I don't really need it. And with that, you see the back of my socks have white. That's the Rafa styling. They put that white on there and my legs are moving so it's visible. So now the reason why the pace is still 30 kilometers an hour is we're going into the wind, and this is a grade. It's one of these, somebody called it a ninja grade. I call them false flats, but I thought that was a funny take on it. He called it a ninja grade, a legend on the channel. So I'm in zone 2 now. The effort is a little harder. bought those gloves for the Rafa sale they just had
Even though it was 69 to start, it feels great out.
because they match my skin. They're close to the color of my skin. It looks like you're not even wearing gloves. They're leather gloves, old, classic, old school style. And when you're riding, you must always be in a gear that would allow you. See Mark moving his body? Look at me. I just pedal. I wish we could have, we'll show that again. When somebody twists the screw at the front, you shouldn't have to strain if you can handle the pace. Somebody twists the screw again, and all I do is the same gear, I just rev it up. Using the smallest possible gear. You can see my heart rate is bumping up. The effort's going up. See, we're gapping Paul a little bit. So the wind is coming from the left and in our face. It's blowing from the northwest, and we're headed north. But it's more from the north right now. Later on in the day, it starts blowing more from the west. So you always have to be searching for the spot you want to be in. And sometimes you can't use the perfect spot. If this guy is on the right and I need to get on his right, sometimes there's not enough room. So all I do is I get as close as possible. I'm adjusting the bottom of the legs on these shorts. They use a different lycra and sometimes they'll roll up if you touch it. So I just pull them down, get them straight, spin them around till they feel right. You can hear the wind and you see the pace has picked up. We're going up the hill. It says 1%. It's probably about 2 to 3. But it's gonna go up and down, but we're going up. Just look at the camera. Gimbal has its frame right. It's a grade. And in these gears, and at this effort, I'm now approaching the bottom of zone 4, close to sweet spot. You can see, you can tell by my motion, I'm basically putting power to the pedals. And because I'm using the proper gearing for my abilities, that's why you don't see me arching my back and doing anything. I just ride. When the gear's too heavy, then people start looking for power elsewhere. The shoulders, the arms, you know. So that's why we were going hard. Victor was up there revving the speed, and the guy at the front felt the need to follow Victor. You have to decide what you do, and that was another thing that we joked about because Victor made attacks. I don't know if we got that on film, but every time Victor would go early in the ride, Rick would go with him. Well, if you're not ready for that, it can be a problem. Look at my cadence. That's why my upper body's not moving. I'm using my oxygen system, my aerobic system here. Because 2 reasons: early in the ride, and it feels good. I was feeling good at this point. This guy pulls off the front. He was like 3rd in line because it's gotten so hard. He doesn't want to be there because you get better draft further back. He just pulled out, and that's okay if you want to do that. You don't have to. But if you do get to the front and it's hard, don't even pull. Just pull off and go back like he did from 3rd position. That's Rick on the right. You see the gap we have now? So now we got several groups on the road. That's because I stayed behind people who were not chatting. Now Dan is coming around. I was the one who was chatting. Not Neville. They're having to work hard to close this gap. But we're not slowing down. And then it's Paul H. And then Greg shot, Doug shot. And then Paulie Longa just slipped behind him. But he still has a big gap here. He should be closer to save his energy. But I think what he's doing is he's siphoning his efforts because we've got that overpass coming. We've come down this road. Paul knows this road. We come out here and we discuss different things and how we feel on certain climbs. And there's a lot of rollers before that overpass. You don't time it right, you get to that overpass dead, you're cooked. This is another climb. 2%. Now Victor's going again. And he uses just a low cadence and a big gear. So the groups have merged at the front. And whoever was pulling at the front is on a hiatus, I guess. At this point, all I'm thinking about is the overpass. These little rollers, I'm not that concerned about. The overpass is long, and so I want to ride it and teach my body to handle it properly. I don't like to ride out of form, if you know what I mean. I don't like to be killing myself through doing an effort. I'd much rather let the group go and stay at the level I'm at and ride in good form. That's always better. There's nothing wrong with letting a group go to stay within control and stay within your limits. So there was not much I could tell Rick at the store. I kind of listened to what he said. I could tell by his face that he was very confused and a little despondent, because he said, I've done it before. He didn't understand why he felt like throwing up. And he basically could not continue after 28:54. We might have him on camera at the point where we passed him, but he basically had to turn around and come home. I could tell he really didn't want to come home, but he realized, and I'm glad he turned around, because he's just not at our level yet to try to go with all these attacks. Had he just sat in the group, he would have been able to ride longer. It was a beautiful day for him, because he actually left the parking lot and came back to ask us if there were anybody else going back. So there were 3 of them that went back. The guy who pulled out a little while ago from the 3rd position, Michael, whose jersey was flapping, I was talking about, and Rick, they came back together from at Taco Corner. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's Rick up there. Rick spent a lot of time at the front, and he ended up paying for it. So here he is. He's pulled. Now he's in 3rd position behind me. So he came off the front. He's in 3rd position. Here comes the overpass, and I hope we get it on film well, because this is where Rick breaks away from the group. I saw him go by, I just ignored him, because I knew we were planning on riding 4.5, 5 hours today. I wouldn't worry about that. That's why you have to have your plan. So right here, I mean, it looked very impressive, but he paid the price dearly later. I wish we would show it. There he is on the right. He takes off. I think that's about all you're gonna see, because Paul's back here with this guy in front of him. So Rick's gone off the front. I'm in like 2nd position. I end up chasing back, and I think you will see that I end up catching him after. But this effort that he did, I think was one of the biggest contributors to ending his ride short today. So he's gone. He's going downhill now. He's probably coasting, and I just kept the effort steady. I believe I may be behind. I don't know who's in front of me, but I ended up chasing, because when we got here, nobody wanted to go to the front. I was just riding comfortably, and that took me to the front, and I did not mind. So I kept it right at the bottom to the middle of my zone 4. They said 165. That's a little above C spot. I can do that all day. That's what I used to catch Rick while he was up there killing himself. You can see the group how it is. I end up at the front. Who was there? Okay, that was Mike. So I was behind Mike, I guess. Yeah. So I'm pulling now. You have to know your limitations. The character Clint Eastwood played, called Dirty Harry, in one of the movies, I think it was Dirty Harry, said out of Magnum Force or one of them, he says, a man must know his limitations. A man being used for a human. Know your limitations. It might be impressive to do something, but if you go too hard and blow, it's not fun. You should never feel like you want to throw up. That means you're overexerting yourself. So I'm sitting at the front right now. It's windy as all get out. That's the phrase my wife uses. And all I'm doing is riding at my pace. My attitude is, if somebody doesn't like it, they can come around. And Rick is up there. He's not that far ahead, because at this point he's cooked a little bit, because I could tell he was not pedaling. He's basically coasting, waiting for us. You know, because he just went so hard on that overpass. The overpass is long and it's difficult. And if you have not prepared your body for it, you know, I've done that overpass. You guys saw me. That's Rick. He's not even pedaling. That's what come by. I just go by. Because I know we got a long day here. So I've sprinted up that overpass with Victor. And I know how hard it is. So you better make sure you're conditioned to do stuff like that. There's a car coming on this turn, and I think they let us know, yeah, we turn here. So now we turn. So now we got more hills right here. This road starts to go up. And because the rest of the group had stayed within themselves, we're not slowing down. All Mark is doing is to make sure everybody's here. I think I ask, is everybody here? So Rudy rolls on my left. There's Rick behind me.
Gotta get the taco before all the bananas are gone.
The boys are shooting a breeze. This is a downhill. This is the Capitol Hill descent. This road is called Capitol Hill. That's the road that Victor and I came up the other way, where I let him go when he was pushing. So now Mike goes. I believe Rudy will go. Because Victor, I'm still holding my pace. Don't try to get too excited when people go. I like to wait to see what develops. And if I'm going to launch attacks, and you will see that today, I like to go after there's been multiple attacks. When it's seriously hard for everybody, that's when I want to go. Not that it's easy for me, but that's just the way I'm wired. I go where all of us are dying. And at that point, you don't need to kill yourself because the speed's already high. It's kind of like doing a sprint and almost at the finish line when those guys stand. They're just standing an inch a little bit more because they're already going hard. Mark goes, and I think I just rev up my gear. Whenever I'm in, look at my cadence. When you spin like that, you come up on people like they're standing still. It's like the bike explodes under you. Now watch, those guys that are gone up there, they had gone, watch. We're gonna catch them and pass them. Especially, I think around the corner, we continue. So they made an effort, but it went nowhere. That's why you don't want to get too excited. Hard is hard. Don't put on a show, pay attention to how you feel. And whatever you do, make sure you can sustain it. If you attack and then people come and you get dropped, what's the point of the attack? So you have to attack at a level that you can sustain and do repeated attacks, or make a big attack and stay away. That's a way to push yourself. Nothing wrong with it. It's all good. So we rolled up to them now, and at this corner here, the group is together pretty much. You can see Paul's right on my wheel. And Paul's feeling good on this ride. As we turn around here, he makes a move in a little while. I know these guys are trying to stop. I move left on Rudy because I don't want to stop. I look for cars. It's clear. I tell him clear. And then I turn. I don't want to stop. The engine I have, once I start going, I want to just keep going. Even if I let people go, I still want to keep my legs going. So Rudy and I resume here. And the people who have overextended themselves need a break. We don't, because we stayed within our limits. It's still early in the ride. 46 minutes for me, that means like 15, I guess. But we rode there, let's see here, 8:21. So it says duration 46, so that means we haven't been riding that long. So I go around Rudy because he was going slower and slower. I just went around. Paul and I put in some monster miles this week. We did almost 350 miles, which is like 500 and something kilometers. 550 kilometers Paul and I logged this week. We had some time between the holidays and we just maximized time on the bike. So all this riding I'm doing here that you're watching, my legs feel like they're not even warmed up yet. I don't feel anything. I'm not even feeling the pedals. So when Victor comes around, he does that. Now, that's what Victor does. Knowing that, I don't change anything I'm doing. And then Mike is going with Victor. Look, they're right there. They're not going anywhere. I just keep my effort hard but steady. I'm right above sweet spot for me. And at this pace, I can do this all day. So I'm not worried about this, and I can ramp it up if I need to. But Victor will do that and then back off. That's his thing. He's doing intervals. So when you know that, don't go chasing everything. There are some additional riders that did not stop that were with us. I think that's Mary up there. When we had the flat, when Doug had the flat, they kept riding. That's who you see up there. We're coming up on them. That's why they kept riding, because they knew we would catch up to them. And this way, they don't have to ride at the fast pace we're holding on Fish Creek. That's Mary right there on the right. And Randy and Mary were riding together. So Randy did not wait either. So we passed them right over there. We don't really say anything. We just pass them. They see us. We see them. We're just gonna roll. So you see, here is Victor and this guy. Now look, their power's off. So why was I gonna waste my time going with them? So you need to know what people are doing in the group before you go with them, or have your own intent. When I go, I don't want to slow down. I want to start a break. And until we're waiting for people, I'm not gonna slow down. Right here, I think Paul comes around. Yep. Paul was pulling, and so I came up. That's why you see the camera. So Paul had pulled us up to Victor and them. So I went back to the front. This is why I tell you guys that I ankle. It's called ankling. My heel drops at the bottom of the stroke. That's just natural. I don't think about it. I think Greg LeMond is another ankler. A lot of riders are anklers. That's your style. Some people point their toes down. So the dog shot comes around, and I just slip on his wheel, picked up my pace a little bit. All I did was sped up the same gear I was in. And you see, we got a little bit of space on Paul here. And I think he'll probably ride back up to us. But at this point, we're going really hard, so I'm staying tight on Doug. Look at the distance between the two of us. There's not much. Because you see the hill coming up, he's gonna go full gas on that hill. And this is part of the stuff that's affecting Rick, because now Rick killed himself on the overpass thinking that he'd get a break. There are no breaks. Look, you see my body? Look at me. You can tell I'm putting power to the pedal. He's going full gas. I'm just behind him spinning. I'm at sweet spot. But I can tell he's going full gas. His body's all over. His back is arching. Look at him. You can tell. And the hill is getting steeper. All I do is I continue to pedal the same gear. Now Dan comes. I ignore Dan. Watch. You will see why. You see us pulling away. We're pulling away from Paul. Paul has his own tempo he wants to keep. He had just expended energy back there. So all these guys come around. There's Rick sitting in. This is hard for everybody because when you're going up, there's no impact on the draft. Greg Shot is looking back because Greg likes to look out for people. You know, he's just making sure Paul is okay. But Paul does his own thing. Paul knows what he's doing. So now we've crested this hill. There's another one coming. I'm still on Doug's wheel. Doug's wheel. This is Greg back here, his brother. See Greg hanging off the back? He can close that gap. He's just giving Paul something to shoot for. He thinks Paul is struggling, but Paul is not. Paul is choosing not to ride that hard at this moment because he's like, this is a long day. So that we're pulling away from Paul. The second hill, we went even harder than the first hill. And we continued to go hard. You will see instances of where Paul is still picking us up until he turns off the camera once we get out of sight, because that's the distance we kind of maintain. See right there, we're getting ready for the corner. And I'm still at sweet spot. So my zone stayed the same. When you're fit, your zones don't jump when you're going hard. I can go hard and just be in zone 3, and it's hard for other people. So it's, we got a good gap on Paul. I mean, he'd have to work hard to close that, but he has chosen not to ride at the level of Group A. So he ends up riding with other people here, and then on the highway, It stopped at the corner, and most of the people in Group A wanted to rest because they're like, we need to regroup. The main reason they wanted to regroup is Mark admitted. One thing I like about Mark is he just says what's on his mind. Mark said, I need to breathe. And we all laughed about it. I mentioned it at the store, and he was there. We all laughed about it. He just announced, I need to breathe. I told him, I said, I don't forget to breathe. It's involuntary. So it was so hard up there in the front. Yeah, we're looking real cool riding away. But it was so hard that we had to stop. One of the members announced that we need to breathe. So right here you can see Paul turn. We're up the road there. You can see us under the tree there, under those trees. And in a little while we kind of get lost in the curves. That's because it goes so hard they got to take a break. So we're still within view of Paul. You can see us. And right up there we turn left and there are a couple of curves. That's when he loses sight of us. And we go ahead and cut to after the point where Mark said he wanted to breathe and we're all regrouped. So we're still up the road there. We're turning left up there. Right under those trees, we're going left up the hill. And after that turn, he can't see us because there are two turns. It goes left and it goes right. So now we're out of sight, but we're not that far ahead because they do all that stuff and they still got to take a break. So at this point, we've regrouped at the corner because that road hits this highway 2854, and I believe I have the camera here. Yeah, I believe I have the camera. So I look around. This is where you will see. Oh, good. It looks like we will get Rick on camera. After the regrouping, I don't know who this is here. I don't know if he's with us. It's probably just another rider. After the regrouping here, these guys continue to ride just as hard as they were riding before we regrouped. And so I go ahead and ride to the front here because I don't want Paul sitting up here expending too much energy. These guys were not with us. These are just riders out here riding. This is a big route for cyclists. See how smooth Paul looks? Because he's under control. He's within himself. So I hand him the camera. If you look at our shadow, I hand him the camera, he takes it. So Rudy goes ahead and bridges up to those guys. I'm not sure why he was hanging back because he was at the corner with them. He should have just left with them instead of wasting all that energy. This is stuff I talk about. They don't sip their energy. He should have just left with them. I had no intention of riding with them. I was going to ride with Paul back to the store. Because we are 1 hour into a 5-hour day and they're riding like we're riding 2 miles. And I know that a third of the group is going to turn around like they do every week. So I don't waste my energy with people like those. I'm looking for people who want to get in some big miles, big kilometers. So I sit at the front at about a little below tempo. Now, I pulled for a while, so I edited it. At this point, Michael comes around. I'm not sure what he's doing because he comes around, he's not going any faster than I was going. He ends up being in my way. So, at this point, the climb is over. We've been climbing for several minutes. Then he comes in front and he's going slower and slower. So I think in a little bit, I just move left, take the road and pass him. Yeah, I check for cars. Because he's in my way. He's not generating any power. If I'm gonna climb a hill and it starts going down, I'm not coasting. I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna put it in a gear and I'm gonna ride it. That's how I ride. That's the whole point of climbing, so you can enjoy the descent, not to sit around and coast. There's Rick up there. We passed Rick, he can't even get onto our group here. I mean, he's literally pedaling squares. And we're approaching the store. We're almost there. That's why he ends up telling me that he almost threw up. So at this point, he's feeling bad. I can tell by the way he's pedaling. He's done. He has no interest in riding with anybody. That's what happens when you overextend yourself. So don't do that. Stay within yourself, especially guys. Our ego get us in trouble. So once again, Michael starts to come around. I don't know what he's doing because he's not really going any faster than I am. I just continue riding my pace. I always ride at a pace I can hold when I'm riding, period. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I check for cars. We can see the guys standing at the light. So the group is standing at this light. We just took our time to get up here. So it's the group plus there's a couple of other riders that don't ride with us normally. So as soon as we get there, the light's green, I'm going around people who are not moving. I didn't come here at speed. I slowed down. But when we started, there was just some people who are not moving at all. So as I rode through here, this guy is now riding with us on the right. And the lady up there in front of him, I think they're together. She says good morning to me and I respond. And right there, I respond and then I ride back up to Rudy. Now, they continue to kill themselves. The way I ride is, when I'm coming to a stop, I back off. I don't want to come to the stop at full gas. I want my body to cool down a bit. So I stay with them here. They're really pushing here. We're riding away from everybody again. This is a climb and it's windy. You can see Paul's shadow on the left of this guy. I don't know if he goes around him or not, but I end up riding and I keep looking back to see where Paul is so that we can ride to the store together after we drop our pace. So you want to cool down a little bit, maybe a minute or two before you stop. But most groups don't do that. They'll kill themselves till they get to the door of the store. I don't think that's very good for your body. So right here, we're really hammered. And then a little while, I think I look back and then I decide I'm just gonna, yeah, right there. I wait for Paul. I see him and I wait. Always keep your eyes on the people you ride with and know what's going on. And I think I end up telling him, let's back off here. And those other riders that we pass will come around us, I think. Oh, that's Greg. And that's the lady that we passed. So we basically turned off the power. We just decided we're going to spin in. And this is when we're leaving the stop.
Yeah.
This is after we fill out our bottles and everything. That's Michael recruiting people to go back on the right there. He, Rick, and another guy, I don't remember his name, but I met him. They're going back. And that's the other guy in the yellow over there that's next to Michael that's going back. They're heading back. We're going out. We're going to get more kilometers in. So you need to stay within yourself at all times. So we're getting ready to head out. We're shooting a breeze here. Because of that girl's event. That's it. All right, guys, let's do this. Trying to get these guys going. I don't like to stop for too long.
You're a troublemaker.
Paul calls me a troublemaker.
Mike says he got GI and shit. We got to that corner.
We're laughing at Mark.
We need to breathe. like I turn around, start
Just
laughing.
like you do, Elder, every freaking Saturday. Where do you think I learned that?
Man, we need to breathe.
And here I thought he was waiting for me, man.
Right? We need
I've
to
watched
breathe.
Elder to not turn too many Saturdays.
I've been breathing, man. We need to breathe.
We got to that corner. Mark says, we need to breathe.
Here I go. Let me hang on again with my dear life here.
We basically stop at this store for multiple reasons. If somebody needs to use the restroom, it's a good spot. But we don't really need a lot of stuff. I mean, my bottles are still full. That's why I just stayed outside. I may have gone in to probably use the restroom. But it's still early in the ride. It's just convenient. Hour and a half right now. It's a convenient stop. So we roll out here. We're going to head west and then go north. This is 1097 west. We're going, the wind has picked up more as the morning went on. It picked up more. At the corner, we're going to go north. So yet another climb. So I just stand up to kind of keep my gear rolling. Nothing too strenuous. 3%. So Paul H is up there. He had left early. People roll out. They're ready to go. They roll out. Doug's in front of me. And then Paul Ilonga is behind me in the camp. We're kind of easing out because we know the other guys were standing around as we were riding out of the parking lot. It's hard to get these guys going when there's a stop. So you just got to roll and then they end up catching up. Such a fair day, but very breezy. There was a strong northwesterly wind. At this point of the morning, it was stiffer from this direction, which is west. We're heading west. We're going to turn right at the corner and go north. A lot of gravel on the right. This is 149 north. When Joe Nanga came, we were coming south on this road. It's hard to ride this road easily. It's up and down. I'm making sure the contents of my pockets are not sticking up because this jersey has shallower pockets than I'm used to. This era of a jersey. You can see how my kit fits. That's the way your kit is supposed to fit you. You don't need anything flapping around. Besides the drag, you don't want it flapping to the point where it can even irritate your skin. I like it to fit me well. I put a lot of time into selecting what I wear and what I purchase. And it's worth it. It's worth the time invested. Minor details. Team Sky calls it minimal gains or marginal gains. This road has those little ridges on the right. We avoid that by staying on the road. In a little bit, the shoulder gets wider, and then I just flip my bike. I stay on the left. Those guys are on the other side of it. I stay close to the white line here. This other genius wants to turn. I don't change my position. He needs to wait. Like we're invisible. There's a group of riders riding. He comes and signals. Just wait. You're just queued up behind us. That's fine. He didn't do anything wrong. He had to stay in there. There's a couple of areas here where I point at the little stragglers that have like little drops of those ridges, and then it's clear. So if you don't pay attention, you can roll over them. That's what I was pointing out to Paul. So as I move over, those guys at the front are forcing the pace. That's why you see the gap open to Paul. This ride, other than the regrouping on this ride mimics road cycling competition. These guys just ride and then slow down, then ride, slow down. That's a road race. And then at some point people fall off the pace. It's a ride of attrition. But we keep our eye out for everybody, making sure everybody's accounted for. See how Rudy went over that thing? That's how you do it. Get it over with. Those ridges, I don't like to roll over them. I just go. And when you do the same move when you're going over cracks, like from the edge of a pavement or something, and you're changing lanes, don't take the crack at a shallow angle or parallel. Try to go as close to perpendicular. It's not possible a lot of times to do perpendicular, but make a direct cut with your front wheels, the main one. Get it over it. Don't go alongside and let it scrape the side of your wheel or rim. That's how you can fall. You hear the wind. Hear that wind. I mean, we're working hard here. We're heading towards Bailey Grove Road. See the leaves flying? It was that kind of day. I don't know if you guys saw that, but the leaves are flying. I'm staying really close because that keeps my effort down instead of riding up to people, backing off, riding up to people. Right here, there's a gap opening, but because we're descending, it's not so bad, but I'm staying close up there. As a result, I'm still scraping the bottom of zone 2. Makes a difference how you place yourself in the group. See, Rudy's drafting me, and I'm drafting Doug. And then his brother is behind Rudy, Greg is behind Rudy. So we're pulling away. There's about 5 or 6 of us pulling away because we kept it really tight. So we're not all working very hard, just the guy at the front. If you're gonna draft, you need a draft. We're gonna be turning soon. So this is what happens when there's a gap. Now they're having to work really hard to close this gap. I'm not sure why they let it open that wide before they decided to come across. As soon as you see it, they should have just come around, Paul. because they had to expend a lot of energy to get up there, and you pay the price at some point. So I edited for time, cut to where we turned left on Bailey Grove, and we stop, and these guys get to catch up. There's a rider that was on Bailey Grove that's not with us. But once they catch up, we resume. We're headed west here. So at this point, we lost 3 riders that started with us. As I mentioned, Rick, Michael, and the other guy, I met him, but I don't remember his name. They turned back. The guy who had pulled out from 3rd position on Fish Creek. I think I'm telling Victor that he caused Rick to go back home. He caused Rick to almost throw up. We're back there chatting about it. That's why we're laughing. Because Victor's a hammerhead. So, you know, you need to know who you follow when you ride.
So much for a rest.
Go ahead, Superman.
Yeah, you see, Paul's calling somebody Superman. I think it might be Victor. Or Mike here. I don't know. These guys leave it all out on the road. Since we started coming north, our riding has moved to another level. I mean, I look at my stats and everything's bumped up over the last year. So just the consistency of our training, especially in the winter when we're doing those long rides, we're operating at a higher level than we did 2 years ago. And it's easy to confirm that. We've had enough of a period of time. A year's data is enough to see the change. So all those winter rides we did, the New Wiverly and all of that in the rain and whatever, riding those climbs, just took us to another level. Now the climbs out here don't seem that hard anymore. And when you're in a group, like you see those guys up there, there's always people who are pushing and this, and then they go slow down, we catch back up. What I try to do is just ride at a pace for what I'm planning on doing that day. Greg Shot's up there. I can't really see who the other riders are, but they're not very far, but they're just riding ahead. We end up eventually catching back up to them, but the key is that don't kill yourself to be in the front group all the time. It's not necessary. It's not a race. You're not going to a finish line. So just pay attention to how you feel. If you feel great, by all means, bridge up. That's a good effort for you, good workout. But if you're not feeling great, you find a spot and you stay in the draft and focus on being efficient in the draft. One thing about Bailey Grove Road, there's a lot of curves, there's a lot of turns. And so there's a tendency to disregard it, but it curves, it turns, and it's going up. And it really kicks in a lot. So all these little turns, if you look at the grade, you'll see 2%, 3%. You know, you're doing this for miles on end. It adds up because we're riding gears of, say, 80 inches or higher. For those of you who do cogs, it's 53, 17, and so forth. can see we're rolling closer to them. You know, Paul's holding the camera here. We're not going full gas at this point. Like tempo pace for me. Once the ride gets very fast, I get really tight on the wheels. That's Dan the man. Dan shaved off his beard. Cultivated a beard earlier in the fall. It's Rudy here. Now Rudy looks like he rides with his toes pointed out. That's what somebody had said. They were told that they saw GCN that riders have different style. Everybody does. You can see Rudy's toes pointed down. Victor looks more like a flat-footed rider. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Everybody rides differently. Don't pay attention to that. What's important is that as you go through the circle, you're scraping and kicking back up and using the muscles in the back of your legs. Right here, this goes up. Let's see if it shows it. I think it's a 3 to 4%. There we go. It's kicking up. This gets hard and it's long. You can see Mike on the right is slowing down. His legs are tired. He's been pulling at the front quite a bit. When you sit in the wind for a long time, you're at a disadvantage because when somebody who's in the back is fresher because they're working at a lower effort. And that's part of the thing you need to do. You can train to where you can pull and still go with attacks. You know, that's riding at a different level. So the average person doesn't really train like that. So when you see a rider who can pull and respond to attacks, yeah, they're on their game. That's the kind of training we do. Sit in the wind and then attack. And you will see that in this ride. When Paul and I left home, we already had discussed how many hours we wanted to do. So that's why I'm keeping my eye on him to make sure we're not going to kill ourselves or anything. We're just going to ride. We can ride up to these guys. We know that. But the goal is to pace ourselves properly so we get the hours in. You see how my hands are on the bars? No weight on the bars. It's just draped. Look at my fingers, just draped. When your bike is set up correctly, you don't need to be grabbing the bars. So we just went over like a 4% climb in the curve, and Mike here, his phone starts ringing. He's reaching for it. It's been ringing for a while. And he's a realtor and somebody's calling about some property. So he picks up the phone and decides to answer the call. And I decided to just go ahead and ride around. I don't answer my phone when I'm on a ride. I take it for me to make calls in case of an emergency. I'm off during that period. Anybody who calls on Saturday morning is going to either leave voicemail or call back later. But the people who are in the know I am not available. So the boys up front have been pressing hard on these climbs. We're keeping it steady. We're gonna go to Bethel Road. Paul and I have ridden it before. Bethel Road, southwesterly direction, piece of it. I went ahead and edited for time here, but the content is the same. As we come around this curve, the curves are challenging. This is a decreasing radius turn, and then it leads into a climb. So you got to really dose your effort. Right here is a climb. See, it says 4%. Doesn't look it, but you feel it. If you're in the wrong gear, you see how I'm pulling away? I'm not really trying. I'm just in the right gear. And so when I realize it, I back off. You see my form, I'm pulling up. That's all I'm doing. We get up to these guys on the corner. They're discussing the options now. That's why we stop here. What else we're gonna add to this ride? What direction?
2 options, guys. Right for 2 miles, then the Gorilla Loop over to 1486, or south to where you want to go,
it, Dan, this road right here?
Well, we want to go back on Jackson, yeah.
I think the mileage should be about the same.
That makes sense.
You're going east, then back.
Okay.
So this is probably, is Jackson done the whole way? Yes.
Jackson is done. So do we have a quorum?
Yeah, let's go south. Well, I've got to be back by the end.
No, I think it's the same distance.
Yeah.
Because you're going
Yeah.
east and
Yeah,
then back.
yeah.
So we're going.
Yes, let's go south.
I gotta go. I gotta be back by the end. And that's about what 9:30. So yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
So we got. How far are we going? We're just gonna go.
back by noon.
Let's go.
You know where the gorilla loop is, man?
They were laughing because I said, yeah, let's go south, because we're not going to start going south. We're going north, then we're going west before we go south. But what Paul H. was saying was that if you do decide to go from here and not go the way they're going, it ends up being the same distance because you end up going south and east. But Victor didn't buy it because he made a lot of comments. He's like, we're going away from home and we're saying it's shorter. So he made several comments about that. They call this route the gorilla route. There are a couple of gorilla statues in a yard, and maybe it's on film, but I don't think we get the gorilla film. But Greg Schott shows it to me when we get there, because I'm like, we've ridden this route before. We call it Bethel Road. They call it Gorilla Route. So we end up going through a road called Mount Moriah. That's not on film. We put the camera up, and that's what happened when we put the camera up and took it out. We didn't clean the lens. And the last route on Jackson Road ended up being just full of attacks, but it looked like it was a cloudy day as opposed to as clear as it is now. But I think that's enough for you to see, because it was just epic. The attacks were thick and fast. I love that phrase. I got that from Phil Liggett. Thick and fast, which means they were coming repeatedly. So one thing about coming on the northwestern side of town is you are working all the time. You know, you can't ride the hills very slowly unless you put it in like a 34, 28 or something like that. If you're in any decent gear, you will get a workout. When Paul and I do our rides, we don't hammer ourselves. We just ride. We get the hours in, we chat, we enjoy, but it ends up being a workout because of the terrain. The terrain makes you work. So I went ahead and edited for time here because we just rolled on this highway. You will see us pull away from Victor there. I'm riding up the boys at the front. This is 1097 north, western side. They have two of these highways named the same. It's the western piece. I edited it to show at the point where we get on Bethel Road. Check for traffic, it's all clear back. Gonna be heading west. We're going northwest, now we're going west. And we're gonna go west-southwest. This is the road they call the Gorilla Route, because it's a farm that has a couple of statues of the gorillas, big powerful gorillas in the yard. Look, good statue, good representation. What ends up happening back in here is the guys at the front continue to ride hard. We're in the middle. See, Victor's here, Paul's next to Victor, and this whole stretch ends up being hard to the point where some of the guys weren't even calling out obstacles. They were just riding hard. Greg and I are talking up there, you know, right at this point here, the road's kind of rolling. We're chatting, he's telling me about the gorillas and why this route is called the Gorilla Route. So the group, the name is just like the name Taco Corner. I think he's pointing to it now. You can't see it. This is a big acreage lot. Most of these people own acres of land here. And the gorilla's way out. You see the boys at the front pulling away. We're not that concerned about it. We can ride up to them. Yeah, he shows me the gorilla, and it did look like the gorillas from Gorillas in the Mist. Just powerful looking guys. Nice statues. up here. May not register. We'll move over for this parked car. It says 1. I think it's closer to 2%. This is Bethel Road Southwest. One day Paul and I came in the other direction. We ended up going up some dead end, steep road. We'll pass it. Steep climb. So we just looked for climbs. So it's windy, beautiful, and we're riding like we got a tailwind. I think this is where I go ahead and pass Greg, and I'm just gonna ride over time to these guys. The way I ride, I don't need to get there right now. We're gonna be going for miles and miles, kilometers and kilometers. This is not a race where you gotta get to the finish line. So don't kill yourself. So I'm bridging up to them. This is not edited. I left this full. I'm gonna bridge up to them gradually, so it feels like I'm not working that hard. You can see it didn't take me long, but I didn't have to go full gas. I could have, but that would not have been the best use of my energy. So even though I'm not quite on Dan's wheel yet, it doesn't matter because I know I got plenty. I know I can do it. So I just continue to ride. That's what brought me closer to them. So you have to learn how to understand your capabilities and understand that I don't have to do everything right now. They may seem like they're pulling away from me, but they're not. They do a lot of yo-yoing, go over their heads, they gotta rest. I just keep riding. And you see I'm using my hips to dodge the cracked pavement. And I'm pretty much right there. Paul's right with me. You can see his shadow. So you have to just gradually do things. You don't need to be going extremely full gas all the time. I made up more ground on them as the road went up. Because the draft wasn't that much of a benefit. So if it seemed like they're pulling away, I'm not worried about it. I know what brought me here will keep me there. And I just continue to keep the effort the same. It wasn't easy. I had to work. I'm in zone 4. But, you know, I didn't need to go above that. I could if I wanted to, but this time of year, I don't need to be going full gas yet. So you watch my pedaling, I am scraping the bottom of that stroke. Use the muscles in the back of my legs and let my quadriceps not do all the work. We're moving here. We're not playing. This is not a sightseeing ride. I'm looking around them. At these speeds, I want to look around to make sure I see what's coming. And sometimes they don't call everything out. Because everybody's operating at a different effort level. When someone's going very hard, they don't have time to give, notices. And, as we found out later on this part, I'm pretty much right on the tail of them right now. So if you can't do what I just did when you're riding, try to stay with the front as much as possible. If they're going just too hard for you, then you let them go. Because when the group splits, there may be another group that you can just ride with. They'll come up to you and you get on their wheels, and you might find that pace more accommodating. I'm standing because the road is very bumpy. Whenever I stand, I use a gear 1 or 2 cogs higher than what I normally would use when I'm sitting, because your cadence is less. around here where we end up hitting a bump pretty hard. And I told him, I said, you guys need to call things out. You see this guy shaking his hand? He's not waving. His hand's numb. He's got a fit issue. That's Neville. Your hands should not be getting numb. That means your weight is not displaced properly between your rear and your feet. There should be no weight on your hands, cutting off your circulation. It could be the hoods, the angle of the bars, but everything starts with that saddle position. End up stopping here again, and I'm a little impatient. I'm like, everybody's here. Why are we stopping? So we're talking about what happened back there where people didn't call out. Because Dan said you sounded irritated. I said, yeah, that kind of stuff can cause you to crash if you hit a hole. It's a big hole.
I thought it was y'all hills or something. Did you lose your, did you break that shifter? I don't think I broke it, but I can't.
Yeah, see, Mark shifter, the little knob for his shifter jumped out. He hit that bump real hard, and it just jumped out of position. So we fixed it right there. It popped back in. So I'm explaining to him that there's a little pin when you shift, the shift lever.
Well, who's looking for what?
Yeah, nobody was calling. People were riding so hard they were not calling out anything. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. I'm like, let's go.
Tim don't call anything, man. To each his own.
So you can't depend on the calls. You got to keep your eyes open and look at the road. Because I ended up standing up as I went over the bump. Because I went over the bump. But my everything was fine. So Mark shifter, it was fine. We got the little pin back in there.
It's negative, man.
Once he clicked it, it went back in.
Oh, man.
And the fact that we took down that motor in the box is a motor. Remember?
Yep.
Paul's very pleased with the gimbal. The new software, that's what we're talking about here. The new software has stabilized the gimbal. The wind is not bothering as much. Plus all the little research we've done in identifying what was affecting the motor when we were using it on the road. So this ride, we just set that thing and forgot about it. We didn't have to mess with the angle. There were no Dutch angles or anything happening. So the new firmware took care of it. You see me rolling, I'm riding into the wind. I'm not riding that hard. I'm not sure why they're riding so slow. I think this is Greg. Yeah, so Greg comes up to me. We're going directly into the westerly wind. It's steep, it's stiff. But I really didn't want to stop, because if you stop too much, you start cooling down. I wanted to just go ahead and get this over with. I have a diesel engine. The longer the ride, the stronger I get as the ride goes on. My body is genetically designed to handle big miles. That's just something. Some riders are like that. The more I ride, the better I recover. You hear that wind? I left it. It's ducked the same way as all the other videos, but I wanted you to hear we're dealing with more. After this ride, we went to an outdoor event. My daughter had a concert. The wind was so much, it was blowing the leaves in our faces. And my wife was like, this is what you guys were dealing with? This road gets covered with water when it rains. That's why you see all the cracks and stuff. This low-lying area. This is Johnson Road. It will take us into Dacus. Once we get into Dacus, we get on 1486. We'll go ahead and shut the camera off because on 1486, I didn't know we were going to do Mount Moriah. But we did 1486 the last time, and all it is one person gets to the front and pulls for miles. So there's not a whole lot that's interesting. I want you guys to look at my feet. See how I'm pulling up? That's something you have to work at. It's not a natural thing to scrape at the bottom. When you work at that. That's all I do. I pull up. I let gravity drop my legs. Look at me pulling up because the wind. I'm pulling up. Look at me coming up. I was further back. It makes it easier on your muscles. I'm pulling up. You give the quadriceps a break. You use your hamstrings and your gluteus maximus, bigger muscles. You see Greg on the right? You can see him pulling up. You know, he's a differently built rider than I am, but I can see him pulling up. Victor, on the other hand, I can't really tell. He looks more like a guy that's pushing more than pulling. But it's hard to tell with Victor because his cadences. He keeps his cadence low. He looks fine. Everybody has different styles, you know. So here we approach Dacus. We're gonna go left on 1486. And what I did from there, I cut to where we're further on 1486 after Mount Moriah road, the new road. We didn't film on that road. I had put the camera up, and that's why you'll see that it had a smudge on it. You know, perspiration, oil, lotion, something got on it. But I think it's good enough to where we'll be able to salvage it. This is further down on 1486 when we turned off of Dacus after Mount Moriah. We're headed south. More south than east. It says southeast and south, but it's kind of south. Westerly almost. He's turning to the right. Going more south there. Victor gets gapped here. I'm behind Paul. I have the camera. And I'm watching Victor, and you can see his cadences. Look. And when the road's going up like that, I mean, it's been a hard ride. And the next day, Victor told me, you know, I've been traveling a lot. I hadn't been riding the same. So, you know, you have to take that into account. Even though this is something he does all the time. Today, his body was not at 100%. And so in a little bit, because I'm always watching people. So in a little bit, I slipped to the front to give him a wheel. Because I'm aware that normally Victor wouldn't let that gap open like that. That hill wasn't that steep for him. But he was not operating at his usual fitness level. So I rolled to the front here. And I just slip in front of him. I'm looking down the whole time. And I make sure there's gap and I slip in front of him when the gap is good enough for my wheel to just to break the wind for him. That's how you give somebody a wheel. There's a difference between that and attacking. If you're attacking, you just go. And you're going to see that. Jackson Road is right up that hill there. Those guys are ahead. And too bad with the, whatever was on the lens, it's smudged. You know, but once we get on there, we're closer, so we'll be able to see stuff. Seems to be okay in this view, but then when you turn, the sun hits it, and it creates more of a glare. It's just a light film. That's why we didn't notice it. It's probably lotion, perspiration, something got on the lens. So all I'm doing is keeping the pace decent, giving Victor a break from the wind, you know, to just ride up to these guys. We're getting closer already. And the road's clear, so I move out in the lane and I stand. You can see the camera swaying. The gimbal's moving, I'm standing. That's why my cadence is in the 60s. I'm keeping the gear the same, just rolling because I know we're turning. That's Mark on the left. This is the road that Phil Liggett usually says the attacks were thick and fast. I just found out Chris Raspberry put on the site while I was doing this narration. He posted on the channel that Paul Sherwin had died. So I looked up NPR News, and sure enough, he passed away. He lives in Uganda. He passed away. They don't really know what the cause of death is, and he's 62 years old. So he will be missed because that team is phenomenal. More than 3 decades of work. So I give Paul the camera here, and that's what we're laughing about. Because this is Jackson Road, is newly paved, so I know the boys are going to be excited. when we're coming the other way, let's see. I think we did it on Sunday as well, the other way. It was fun too, but nothing like this. So this is the first time since they shut it down. Well, they didn't shut it down. It was just gravel, and we weren't riding on it. I told Dan to go ahead. I want to stay with Paul. But now they have, this is the older pavement. They've got new black asphalt. They haven't put the lines, the yellow lines yet, or the white line on the side. But it's so nice now having to dodge the ruts that used to be on the older part of Jackson Road. So you can see we're doing 45 kilometers an hour. The wind's coming from behind us and to the right. The wind was from the west. On this part of Jackson Road, we don't have a perfect tailwind because it's really from the right. All I'm doing is keeping my eye for gaps. I don't want to chase any gaps. It's usually my signal to Paul that he needs to stay close, that these boys are moving. You can see the gap developing here. Mike is leaving a gap. Whenever you see that, ride around that rider and go closer to the wheel so you don't have to waste your energy later. The only reason you should leave a gap is if you don't want to ride with the people that you're leaving a gap to. If you're going to ride with them, why chase them later when you could have just stayed there? You know, unless the pace is something you can't hold, ride smart by not allowing gaps to develop. Save your energy that way. That's how weaker riders can ride with stronger riders. And it just irks me when I see in a group where people are leaving gaps and then they get dropped later. You know, it happens. So it's like, oh, why pull? They pull, then they get dropped. Then you gotta wait for them. Or they leave a gap, then they get dropped. I'm like, come on. Ride smart. Use your head. Stay within about half a wheel, which is about a foot. Half the width, you know, the diameter of a wheel. Behind the other rider. See, Dan's to the right, leaving that. Now Victor goes. So that's the first attack. So I tell them, you'll hear me. I said, let's work together and peg him back. That didn't register with these guys because you'll see. Mike goes. So he's going solo as opposed to working with the group. So he gaps the rider at the front. I think Rudy's at the front. I'm just watching. Yeah, Rudy is pulling off the front. Mike's gone. So I go around Paul H here because he's not staying on that wheel that is in front of him. Doug is on. You can't see it very well, unfortunately, but Doug, that's the red light. Doug is on Mike's wheel because Doug's shot was at the front when Rudy pulled off. So he rode up to Mike. So they're doing everything independently. They're not working as a group. So I'm riding up to them, bringing everybody else because I'm pulling steadily at 41 kilometers an hour and the wind is pounding me from the right. So it's hard. So I bring the group back up to them. You can see. Because Victor's still up there. He's not that far ahead because we're moving at a good clip. You can see him on the right. So Doug pulls through. Mike is done. So Mike expended a lot of energy, a lot more energy than if everybody had taken fast, short pulls. But that's not Team RR style. They're a bunch of kamikazes. They just go. Balls out. And that's why we like riding with them. Paul and I talk about it all the time. You come, if you bring your D game, you're gonna be crawling home with these boys. So in a little bit, we're right on Victor. Boom, Rudy takes off. Which is a good strategy. It's like a road racing when you almost catching somebody, people think they're gonna rest. So that's when I would go. But since he went, I just sat in because I knew he wasn't going anywhere. He went far too fast. This is like a 12-minute effort on this road. I was like, he went far too fast for what he was doing. Boom, then I go right there. I went left so nobody would have a wheel. Look at my speed. And I'm not going full gas. I'm at sweet spot. That's what the kilometers will do. I'm on Rudy. And my plan is as soon as I get there, I'm gonna attack him. Boom, I shoot to the left. So Paul is with me. That's why you see the camera here. So Paul is with me. I see Paul, so I back off a little bit. Paul comes and he's on my right. And I decide I'm gonna pull to the front because the two of us we're off the front now. I'm gonna pull to the front to save so he can save his energy because I want him to document what's happening, what's going to happen. Because this is just the beginning. So I roll to the front and all I'm doing now is getting my body to settle down. Because when you attack like that, and I did 2 attacks, your heart rate, your legs, everything they burn, your breathing changes. So all I do is I roll to the front and kick up the effort just a little bit. You can see 168. I attacked at 163. That's Mike. I looked at his cadence. He's not firing. So Rudy finally recovered to go with Mike. I let him sit there. I want to see who else is coming because there's more. They're right there. They're not that far. So then I see Doug comes. I slip on his wheel. And then the fact that nobody else is coming tells me they're tired. That's Victor. Victor proceeds to try and ride to Rudy and Mike. That's what he's trying to do. But then he sits right there. See? He's not making progress. He's not firing. That wind is brutal. It's coming from the right. So he's right there next to us. As opposed to being in the draft. So he's working harder. So I'm just watching everything. I'm probably in a 53.17 or 53.16, something like that. Just keeping it steady. We're back to 35 kilometers, 36 kilometers an hour. And right here with the camera, Paul has too much of a gap to us. I guess it was just too hard. Because you're catching wind, you're working too hard. He should have been closer to us. But when I went to Doug's wheel, I gapped him. And he didn't want to waste his energy pushing through. Because you pretty much have to work hard to close those gaps. So everybody's kind of regrouping here. You will see in a little bit, Mike will pull off the front. Remember, Mike and Rudy had gone up there. This is Neville here. Paul is behind them. Because of all those attacks now, everybody's hurting. So the group has settled down. I end up at some part of you're not going to see it, but I end up at the front pulling and I flick my wrist to let them know to come through because I was pulling through. People were leaving gaps. After, Doug and them pulled and so forth, they were leaving gaps. So we're all together now. So I'm going to pull off the front. We're right on those guys, on Rudy and Mike's wheel. You hear the wind. It is blowing. So when you make an attack into the wind, you better have some good power. I think I've pulled off the front now. So after all those attacks, I was pulling, everybody's sitting on my wheel. So I'm like, come on through. Nobody wanted to come through. That's why the speed dropped a little bit. So I got off the front. I'm going to slip in front of Paul H here. We're all together. The reason we're together is because it's hard. All those guys that tried to go, they didn't go anywhere. So I'm watching everything. I don't know if somebody's up the road because people leave gaps. I don't know if somebody's up the road or not. Okay, there is a gap. I mean, they're not that far. It looks like somebody rode off again from whoever was following them because we had initially gotten back together. So Rudy and Mike are still up there. So at this point, my plan is as soon as we catch them, I'm going to attack again. Because it's hard for everybody. Right here, we've caught them. I check for traffic, and then I go right here. Not full gas, 75%. That's Rudy and Mike right there. I go. You notice Mike didn't make a move. Rudy's trying. I'm not going full gas. So he comes along. I back off the pace as soon as he comes along. I kind of let it settle down. You can see the speeds came down. And these guys are digging to get up to us because of the wind. Now, I was hoping he would come around, but he's been trying to cover attacks, and he's tired. And so right here, you can see everybody's kind of coasting, and I'm sitting there. And I think Victor goes right there. Now, I could have gone with Victor, but I didn't want to carry anybody along with Victor. I figured if somebody wants to go with Victor, let them work to go with Victor. But nobody went with Victor. Then I smiled knowing that, yeah, this is indeed hard. You see the gap to Rudy? I'm opening a little gap without trying. Then I stand, and I just remain standing and ride up to Victor out of the saddle there. When I watched the clips, I was like, you are nuts. I expended a lot of energy that we called Victor. He didn't go anywhere. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry that the last section here had a bit of smudge on there, but we'll get that sorted, and we'll make a note once we unpack the camera during the ride to make sure to check the lens first. But I hope you all got a chance to get some K's in, because you got to get the K's in if you want to be able to do what you watched on the screen. Those repeated attacks are taxing.